Hello guys, gals, and anyone who identifies otherwise, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Table of Terror podcast. My name is Kimiko. You can call me Miko if you'd like, and I am the creator and host of this podcast.
Okay. Alright. So if you're hearing this, if my voice is coming through to your lovely, lovely ears, then you probably already know the topic that we're talking about today. We are talking about sleep paralysis. Just a brief overview of what this podcast episode is going to entail. I want to talk about what sleep paralysis actually is, kind of the common symptoms, or what it looks like, people who experience it. I want to give a little bit of a history, kind of how sleep paralysis has been perceived in different societies and cultures throughout time. And then I want to talk about experiences that I've had, because since childhood, I have what I now believe to be a version of sleep paralysis, and I've had this, I've been experiencing this for my entire life, or at least as much of it as I can remember. Yeah, I mean, the first time that I can really remember having this stuff happen to me was maybe 5, 6. I mean, I was a tiny human being, and I can remember what I felt and heard and saw. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but first let's talk about the definition of sleep paralysis. What is it? What is sleep paralysis, guys? Do you know? Let me know if you know. I know. So, in a nutshell, what sleep paralysis is the temporary inability to move or speak that can occur when you're waking up or you're falling asleep. So there are two different kinds of sleep paralysis. One is the hypnagogic or predormital sleep paralysis, and this occurs as someone is going from an awakened state when you're awake to falling asleep. And a hypnopomic form of sleep paralysis is just the opposite. It is when you are in a state of sleep and you're waking up and you experience the inability to move, this literal paralysis. So what happens during hypnopomic sleep paralysis is when you dream, there's a couple of different sleep cycles that you go through. So the body alternates between REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. So your body goes between REM sleep and non-REM sleep. And during REM, which is the time that you dream, your body relaxes so much so that it keeps you from acting out your dreams. So if you wake up or happen to become aware right out of a REM sleep, you might notice that you won't be able to move or speak, and that's just because that your body has not caught up to your mind yet. Your mind is awake, you're conscious, but your body is still stuck in that sort of REM sleep state, if you will, if that makes any sense. And some of the symptoms of sleep paralysis are the paralysis, the inability to move, or the inability to sleep. It also causes anxiety and fear. There can be auditory and or visual hallucinations that go with it, which is terrifying. That sounds awful. Some people have also reported feelings of a physical pressure on their body, whether it's something, a weight sort of physically, it feels like it's pushing them down. And this can cause fear and anxiety due to these other symptoms, and everything can exasperate everything else, and it's not fun. There are some possible causes of sleep paralysis. It does sometimes accompany other sleep disorders, like, say, narcolepsy. A lot of times when you are sleep deprived, there's been a lack of sleep in your day-to-day schedule, it can lead to sleep paralysis. Sometimes changing your sleep schedule too often can kind of mess with the circadian rhythm in your body, and weird things can happen and interrupt your sleep cycles. Also, stress and anxiety can play play a role in all of this. There are some mental conditions. A lot of websites say that bipolar disorder is sometimes loosely correlated to sleep paralysis. And here's a fun fact about bipolar disorder is that sometimes, how do I word this? I want to say this without acting like I'm an expert because I'm definitely not an expert. But I do have some experience with this stuff and I know a lot about bipolar disorder. How do I want to say this? There is a correlation between bipolar disorder and a deficiency in melatonin. So melatonin helps regulate your sleep, and the pineal gland, which is what secretes melatonin, is very, very sensitive to light. But I digress. Sometimes people with it just happens to be that sometimes people who experience sleep paralysis also are bipolar, who might also have a deficiency in melatonin, so that can kind of all play together. The use of certain medications sometimes correlates to sleep paralysis, as well as substance abuse. Which makes sense because if you think about it, all of these things can kind of mess with your body's internal rhythm. It can mess up your body's natural rhythm and the clock that tells you, oh, it's daytime, I should be awake. Oh, it's nighttime, I should turn off the TV, I should put down my phone and actually sleep. Now that I've talked about a little bit of what sleep paralysis is and how the symptoms can be shown, some of you might be thinking, well, is there anything that I can do about it? Let's say you experience sleep paralysis and you don't know what to do about it. There are some things that can be done to kind of just help your body. Basically, you have to sleep is basically what it is. Your body is trying to tell you something. So some websites and resources say just getting enough sleep, scheduling enough sleep time in your schedule can help. Also, relieving stress in your day-to-day life, especially right before bedtime, so try not to do anything especially stressful or anything that can trigger anxiety right before you go to bed. Do not drink caffeine before bed. No coffee, no caffeinated tea. None of that is going to help you sleep. Some sources have said that if you sleep on your back a lot and that's part of your regular routine, maybe try a different position. Sleep positions, guys, don't be gross. But possibly moving from your back, say, to your side might help you sleep a little bit better. I know that I've read some stuff on the benefits of sleeping on your left side. Apparently it's better for your heart and increases blood flow. It's just supposed to be better for your body, so maybe try that. I would say, again, I'm not an expert by any means, but I have tried CBD oil, I have tried melatonin. Both of those things work for me. But do a little bit of research. Figure out what your body works with and what it doesn't work with, and talk to a doctor if you need to, if you have serious sleep problems. Obviously, listening to a podcast is not going to solve all of your problems, but there are some natural ways that you can go about it. And now that we've talked about some potential solutions, I kind of want to talk about sleep paralysis in history. Because I did a little bit of research, you guys, and this is really exciting. So, some of the earliest accounts of sleep paralysis that have been documented are around 2000 BCE, everywhere from ancient Mesopotamia to the Holy Roman Empire. And I had heard about old documentation of sleep paralysis being a demon sitting on your chest, but what I didn't know is that it's a specific kind of demon called an incubus. And the incubus demon was blamed for bad dreams, and the creature would sit on the chest of the, victim, inducing horrifying dreams and physical immobility. And what you may or may not know about incubi is that, and succubi, is that they are commonly known nowadays as a sort of quote-unquote sex demon, which is interesting. I have listening to a podcast episode from Keep It Real. Is that what it was? I think so. On succubi and incubi and kind of the differences there. And it was really interesting. And then I was doing this topic and I came across this and just everything sort of lined up. And yeah, so early documentation of sleep paralysis was blamed on demons. Norse mythology, the old Norse version of an incubus is called the Mara or Mara. I'm not exactly 100% sure on the pronunciation there, but it is the base for the word nightmare, which comes from the verb marin or crusher. And although the Mara is not a demon, it is supposedly someone with magical attributes who quote-unquote rides their victim just for the pleasure of being rude and wicked and not fun. So just for the sake of being nasty. Early Christianity said that sleep paralysis was akin to demonic possession. There's a surprise. And basically that was quote-unquote treated with prayers and exorcisms and stuff like that. And I think it's interesting to consider the modern symbolic demon of sleep paralysis, because it has seemed to kind of change again. It seems like it's morphed into something that a lot of people like to talk about now, which are aliens and alien abduction. And although I haven't experienced alien abduction or any of this, I have experienced sleep paralysis. But I like aliens. Aliens are cool. Went to Roswell recently, so that was fun. But I digress. Sleep paralysis. It's not a fun thing. I have a little bit of experience with it. So I experience the form of sleep paralysis that is hypnopompic. So it happens when I am transitioning from a state of very restful sleep, this REM cycle, into being physically and mentally awake. And I can remember experiencing sleep paralysis probably as young as 5, 6, 7 years old. I mean, I was a small little bean, and there are a couple of different ways that this would go. Sometimes I would just have dreams and wake up, and I wouldn't be able to move. Often, when I experience sleep paralysis, there's also some hallucination that goes with it, which sounds really bad, and it's really not as bad as you would think. Sometimes I would wake up from a dream, and I would open my eyes, and I would be awake, but I would still be able to see the dream playing out in front of my eyes. It was almost like the dream was being projected onto the wall across the room, or whatever I happened to open my eyes and look at when I woke up. Sometimes I would wake up and these visions wouldn't be the dream itself, it would be like dark shapes flitting across my vision. Sometimes it would manifest as a dark shape moving from like a corner of the room towards me, and then there would be a face in it and it would dissolve in front of my eyes. Like once it had gotten closer to me. And it's terrifying when you're a child and you are prone to scary, spooky, bad dreams, if you will, quite often, which I was. I used to dream really interesting, weird dreams all the time, and I would have recurring dreams. I could have, as a kid, I could have the same dream or a variation of it every night for a month. I mean, it would happen all the time. I dreamt more nights than I didn't when I was a kid, and it would always be something that was disconcerting to a small person, to a small human being. It happened so often that people stopped believing that I was having bad dreams, but I don't... Yeah. Poor little Miko. Anyway, I remember an instance very vividly when... I don't remember the dream I was having, but I remember waking up, and when I woke up, I kind of looked over to the side of my bed next to me, and all along the length of the bed and up onto my pillowcase were these, like, bugs. I can't remember if they were spiders or just, like, beetles, but there was, like, a line of bugs crawling up in front of my eyes. I watched them for a good 5-6 seconds, and then they just gradually faded away. But I remember that very specifically. I can remember having dreams where I'm swimming in the ocean, and I look down, and there's a bunch of, like, sharks and scary swimmy things with sharp teeth, and I can remember waking up after that kind of dream, and it being really crazy. It was cool, almost. It looked like the wall that I woke up looking at was an aquarium. I mean, I could see the water, I could see fish, I could see all kinds of stuff. And then my vision clears and it's just a blank, empty wall and I'm awake. But I had a lot of this stuff happen all throughout my life, and there was a stint, a pretty decent chunk of my adolescence where I was taking sleep aids because I was always sleep deprived and just couldn't seem to get my body on a regular sleep schedule. So I took melatonin pretty much every night for 2 or 3 years. And when I started taking melatonin, I pretty much stopped dreaming. If I did dream, I didn't wake up remembering them. I stopped lucid dreaming. Obviously, if I can't remember that I'm dreaming and I'm not experiencing it, I wouldn't be lucid dreaming anymore. Well, that's also an interesting thing. If you want to hear me talk about how I taught myself how to lucid dream, I did so because of these reoccurring nightmares that I would have and the fact that I was experiencing sleep paralysis, and I didn't know what it was called when I was a kid. And I only let myself really start to explore that more recently in my life. So if you want to hear about that, let me know. It's an interesting thing to talk to people about when you throw casually into a conversation. Oh yeah, by the way, I taught myself how to lucid dream. People are always like, wait, what? But yeah, that stems from experiencing sleep paralysis as a tiny human being. To get a little bit darker, a little more creepy, I talked about these dark figures and shapes that would kind of shoot across my vision. Sometimes they were clear, sometimes they were blurry. In the case of if I woke up still seeing a dream, usually it was very, very clear, because when I dream, my vision's clear. Now in real life I wear glasses, but my dreams I have perfect vision, so when I wake up and there's a dream still playing out in front of me, it's clear. But when I wake up and there's a hallucination due to sleep paralysis that isn't connected to the dream itself, they're always blurry shapes. So that's an interesting thing. I thought that was interesting. Just kind of the difference in what my eyes think that they're seeing and what that conversation is between my eyes and my mind at the time. But I also had dreams where... Are they dreams? I think that they were dreams. Maybe it was also sleep paralysis. I don't know. But I used to have these experiences where I was paralyzed, unable to move. And I felt like something was physically pinning me down. Sometimes it would happen on my back. Usually it would happen on my stomach. I slept on my stomach a lot as a kid to start out with. But sometimes I would have dreams where I was sleeping and there was something behind me. Like I could feel presence behind me, and I could feel breathing on my neck, or, oh, guys, this gives me chills to think about, but sometimes I could feel this presence around me, and I would feel like, it's gross, but like licking on the back of my neck, and it would start, and then it would be incessant, and then I would try and move and get away, and it just wouldn't. Ugh. Oh, it's weird. But I would have experiences like that sometimes, and I think it was probably like I was half awake and half dreaming, and I could see my room, but I was, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, that was still sleep paralysis. So, I started not sleeping on my stomach anymore, and I moved to sleeping on my back, and I still do this a lot. I would go to sleep on my back with my knees up, because, I don't know, it was comfortable. But, so a lot of the times, I started going to sleep on my back, or there was a period of time where I was sleeping in like a loft bed, So I would scoot so that my back was flush against the wall, because it just made me feel safer, I guess, to know that there was something physical behind me. Even when I'm asleep, I could kind of feel the wall. And that sort of preventative stuff before going to bed, mixed with teaching myself how to lucid dream and teaching myself how to wake up and then kind of mold the dreams to how I wanted them to be and change anything freaky that was happening, really helped me get over the fear that I had of going to sleep as a child. It didn't stop dreams from happening, like I said, until I was probably 16. I would have some sort of nightmare or night terror just about every night. And often it would be either the same dream or something very similar over and over and over again for nights in a row, weeks in a row, sometimes like close to a month. But eventually I taught myself how to kind of change that path, and once I started taking sleep aids, specifically melatonin, I stopped dreaming altogether. And then, even when I stopped taking melatonin, it took me a long time before I was able to start dreaming regularly again. I still don't dream as often as I used to as a kid, but I do still experience there's visual hallucinations that come with sleep paralysis that I've experienced my whole life. Most mornings, or like if I wake up in the middle of the night, there's something like that going on, but it's usually only for a second or two now. And I know what it is, which helps a lot. Knowing what's going on tends to take the fear out of most things. So we have talked about what sleep paralysis is. We've talked a little bit about how sleep paralysis has been portrayed throughout history. I have talked about my experiences with sleep paralysis, and now I want to turn the conversation over to you. Yes, you, the person listening right now. Hi, hello. Do you experience sleep paralysis? Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? I think a large portion of the population probably has. I've spoken with a lot of people who say that they have. And so I would like to invite you to reach out and share with me and other listeners about your experiences with sleep paralysis. And I'm going to have ways for you to get in contact with me in the show notes. You can go over and look at those anytime you'd like. And in the meantime, I want to say thank you for being here with me today.
So if you would like to get in touch with the podcast on social media, you can reach out on Instagram and on Twitter at tableofterror_. So that's TABLE of terror with an underscore after. That's Instagram and Twitter. And we do have a Patreon if you want to support the show financially. There are also perks up there. You can go take a look if you want to. You can find our show's Patreon. Wow, it's been a long day. You can find our Patreon at patreon.com/tableofterrorpod. Again, that's if you want to support the show financially in any sort of way. We'd really appreciate it, but of course you do not have to. If you would like to find me, Kimiko, online, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at Miko Rios. That's MEKO, and my last name RIOS. Again, that's Instagram and Twitter. I hope that you enjoyed episode 2 of this podcast, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Please, 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 if you have a paranormal experience that you would like to share with me and other people, consider reaching out on social media. You can hit the podcast up, you can hit me up, or you can send an email to tableofterrorpod@gmail.com. And you can type it up, you can send a picture of a letter, you can send a voice recording, any way that you want to share your story. I know I would love to hear it, and I'm sure that there are people listening to this podcast right now that would be interested in hearing your story from you. So please consider doing that. I think if we continue to get listener stories in, that this podcast could be something really, really special. And that would make my heart happy. Now, with all of that being said, I'm about to sign off. I'm not going to hold your ears hostage any longer. I would like to say, please, 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 be kind to each other. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. And as always, drink water because it's good for your body. Okay, bye!